I want to go back to Jack Johnson because he's still in the back of my head. I can't get him out of my head where this conversation is concerned. Who have you felt most often like in the ring fighting the record industry? Like Jack or the opponent?
Oh, like Jack.
Like Jack?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Well, because I knew I was right. You know, we talked about this in our very first interview, conversation together. It's obvious now that artists are supposed to own their master recordings. I mean, in the future, it'll be unconscionable to even think you can take somebody's creation and claim ownership of it. See, unfortunately, this discussion is going to start to barrel into a discussion about the human genome and the DNA and all the rest of it. When it gets there, then we're going to be in the deep water. See, so it's better to start the conversation now before we get into God talk, you know.
There are 4 songs that I want to, you can go to lotusflower.com and get it. And follow along at home, even if you're 2 or 3 days late, you can play this back and follow along. In no particular order, since we mentioned Dreamer first, tell me about Dreamer.
Oh, well, when I saw the State of the Black Union, Dick Gregory really moved me and a lot of my friends. I show it to everybody that comes over the house, especially white folks, because they need to hear that, you know, so that they know more about all of us. Because what he said affects all of us. He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails. Chemtrails. And you know, when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time, and so oh, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. Okay, and you really didn't know why. I mean, everybody was fighting. So he started riffing about the chemtrails. And he started to say things that hit home so hard. And I would recommend that everybody try to get what he said online or wherever and try to get a copy of it and just listen to it.
My neighborhood. Lead affects my thinking capacity. Lead, there's only one thing on the planet more dangerous than lead, and that's manganese. Manganese will make you kill your mama. And let me tell y'all something. If you want to see the largest homicide rate in the world, it ain't in no black ghetto in America. It's a little town in Australia where them white folks' homicide rate is 200 times what their population is. And that town just happened to be located across the street from a manganese plant. Right here.
Sit back down, Dick. Don't lose that mic, yeah.
That town is located across the street from a manganese plant. How much manganese are you spraying in my neighborhood at night while I'm sleeping? How in the world can a 9-year-old child find a heroin man, but the FBI can't find it, and you gonna tell me that's a black thing? Y'all crazy?
So Prince have been on many occasions on TV exposing the government using chemtrails to depopulate us, to poison us, to kill us. And what he failed to realize is that when you get with the elite, you stay with the elite, you can't rebel against the elite, or they'll kill you.
musicians mysteriously dies or these actors mysteriously die, they're usually a part of some type of ritual sacrifice. You might say, well, why would they kill somebody if they're a part of it? Because Prince was clearly, at one point in time, a part of the Illuminati, a part of this satanic society out there. He has album covers doing the all-seeing eye. He has been photographed singing before with the word slave written on his face, making reference to the fact that he is a slave, whether it was through MK Ultra Monarch programming, that he was a slave to them, or just a slave in general to the elitists who run Hollywood, who run the music industry. And he's gone on record recently as, talking about things such as the depopulation agenda and the chemtrails. He's gone on television interviews before and talked about how they're using chemtrails to poison us and how they're using these chemtrails to depopulate. So what it reminds me of a lot is the Michael Jackson death that occurred, because towards the end, Michael Jackson, who was he was always a part of this Illuminati system, and probably highly likely programmed during this entire period when he was famous, he started to break down towards the end, and he started to leak information and say things about the elitists and say things about the secret societies, and he threatened to go out and expose them. And then he suddenly died, which was pretty obvious. It was either a fake death and he's living somewhere else, or he was sacrificed. I know there's so many theories about Michael Jackson and being cloned and all this stuff. I'm not getting into that. But Prince's sudden death kind of rings very true to that, because he has been going out talking about how he feels the government has an agenda of depopulation. These are all things that we know the Illuminati is trying to do. Obviously, the Georgia Guidestones talk about the agenda. We know about Agenda 21 and the depopulation agenda. So he's been on record talking about these things and the chemtrails. And this could be a part of his programming breaking down. It could be a part of him growing a conscience and breaking away from all of this stuff. But what you have to remember is that when they get initiated and they become Prince wasn't some guy with a great voice that they just tapped on the shoulder and said, let's give him a record deal. Okay, as they go through this process, they make a deal with the devil himself. They sign a blood contract. Okay, to be a Satanist, you get baptized in Satanism. You sign a blood contract. And to them, once you sign it, there's no way out. So whether or not he claimed to be Christian or Jehovah's Witness or whatever he was claiming towards the end of his life or any of those things, we don't know what the guy felt in his heart. But what we do know is that once you're in for life. Once you are initiated, it's just like the Freemasons. You cannot escape. Once you take that vow, you're a part of it. So his death mysteriously falls here, along with another death, which was a WWE wrestler, China, who also happened to die today, which, once again, just another death in the wrestling world. We talked about it over and over, how all these wrestlers just die and just continue to die, coincidentally, in their 40s and 50s, and everybody blames it on steroids. Yet you see all the Freemason, Illuminati symbolism all over the place when you watch pro wrestling events. And I did an expose on WrestleMania. You could find at least 20 things, and maybe even more than I missed just watching a 3-hour presentation or 4-hour presentation. So that's just another mysterious death. But I told you on this channel last week, the April calendar for these Satanists is very, very important. During this 13-day period at the end of the month, leading into May Day, May 1st, the Beltane, there are human sacrifices performed for Satan, for Baal. And these are the things that we have to keep an eye out for.
Unfortunately, there are certain stars that won't do what we want.
Unfortunately, there are certain stars that won't do what we want. What's your problem?